Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, yes sir.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington Charles Bishop, standing in for the two. Man, you getting one for the price of two. Man, you must be a bad brother.
Do I get both checks? Do I get both checks?
Yeah, we'll have to negotiate that a little further. Damn. Maybe 1.5. Maybe 1.5. So everybody, as we get started, welcome to episode 281 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host today, AD Drew. On behalf of Mike Washington Charles Bishop, we're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KWSC 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer that is, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. With that being said, I want to jump in here, but before I do that, let me make sure I give all the kudos here. Today's episode of HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Got to make sure I pay all the bills. You know that, AD Drew. Before we get into the lighter side and give you some interviews, as we're really taking time off to give you some interviews from a different perspective. We'll have a different one coming in today. HBCU ties, football as well. But before we do that, talking about football, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge JSU football great Rashard Anderson passes away at 45. Former JSU and Carolina Panthers defensive back Rashard Anderson passes away from cancer at the young age of 45. Anderson, a JSU Sports Hall of Fame inductee, was a standout cornerback for the Tigers from 1996 to 99, helping the Tigers to the 1996 SWAC championship and the 1999 SWAC Eastern Division title game. That was the inaugural championship for those that remember that, as JSU played in the first ever SWAC championship game. Quote, "Today is a sad day for the JSU family," end quote, said Jackson State Vice President and Director of Athletics, Ashley Robinson. Quote, also Rashard was one of the best players in the history of our football program and an outstanding person. He attended our spring football game in April and was excited about the program returning to championship status. Rashard will always be remembered by Jackson State University, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family at this time. Let's please take a break for a moment of silence. With that being said, before I turn it over to you, get your first thoughts of the day, AD Drew. See what direction you want to go in. Let me give a shout out to some of these folks. Chuck Hunt in the building, Curtis Moss, Franklin Nelson, Texas Southern University. I see you. Hello, Doc. Mary Allen, Anthony Johnson, Noel Price, G. Boom Holly. Yeah, that rain. We got a little rain up, thankfully. Hopefully I'm sending it to you because we just passed down here in Houston, Texas. Noel Price says, good evening, Dean, in the professor's lab time. That's right. Let's get into it. Swag Media Day is next. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about SIAC, what comes out of there. Those standings are up. See what Drew thinks about that a little later in the show. But certainly we'll give you some updates on the SWAC. We know who's going to be there in the building now. Anthony Johnson says, what's up, Doc? Wendell Davis. That's brother Wendell Davis. Shout out. Getting a little A5 there. Ricky Burke. Sean Jenkins. Karen Griffin is always in the house. Southern Cal. Never rains in Southern. Yeah, rains in Texas, though. Brother Gerald Wayne Joseph, former president of Alpha Ada Lambda in the house, showing us some love. Appreciate that. But with that being done, y'all keep it coming. We'll give you some shout outs. With that being done, AD Drew, what are your thoughts of the day?
Well, first of all, it seems like this is about the third or fourth show in a row that we've had to take a moment of silence for somebody in our HBCU community passing away between shows. So hopefully we are done with these for a while. But if not, we're gonna keep on honoring these folks and honoring their legacy. No
doubt about it. I appreciate you for framing it that way. You're right. It is our space, and as you know anything about me, past, present, and persistence, we're certainly going to honor all those connected to HBCU in general, but more certainly HBCU sports.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, on a personal note, 1 year ago today, Doc, I jumped the broom.
That's right. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Want to say a shout out to my lovely wife. She's put up with me for 1 year through and you know how that goes, Doc. I'm out of here. Okay, I'm out of here too. But we done figured it out, and hopefully we continue to figure it out for some more years. So definitely want to say a shout out to my lovely wife, Dr. McClelland, Dr. Charles McClelland, named chair of the Division I Men's Basketball Committee beginning in the 23-24 season. This comes courtesy of SWAC.org. Southwest Athletic Commissioner Dr. Charles McClelland will be the first person representing an HBCU league or institution to chair the Division I Men's Basketball Committee when he assumes that duty for the 23-24 season. McClelland, who has been on the committee since 2019, will be the vice chair for the upcoming season, supporting incoming chair Chris Reynolds, director of athletics at Bradley University. McClelland has been at the SWAC since 2018. As you know, Doc, it seemed like you and him have followed footsteps, both Texas Southern and Prairie View together. Y'all tied with those two together.
Exactly.
Yeah. He has his doctoral. He has his undergrad from Prairie View. He received and his MBA from Prairie View, and he holds a doctoral degree in higher education from Texas A&M. Says Dr. McClelland, it is a tremendous honor to be selected by my colleagues, and I am very pleased to continue the important work of the Men's Basketball Committee. In my opinion, the NCAA tournament is the greatest sporting event in the world, and we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure the future success of this great enterprise. For a commissioner of a not a mid-major, but what is considered by a lot of people in basketball a lower major conference, to lead the NCAA's basketball committee is an honor in itself. The fact that this happens to be the commissioner of an HBCU conference is very personal for people who look like you and I and who attended HBCU. So, shout out to Dr. McClelland. And when you looked at some of the names of the people on that committee and some of the schools that they represent, and they chose this man, this brother, a friend, a colleague, a personal friend, a colleague of yours, as their leader, really said something about the work that Dr. McClelland has been doing, and not only on a personal level, but with the SWAC conference. But I do want to say everything. Yeah, just because Dr. McClelland is the chair does not mean we're going to get an extra team into the tournament just because he is the chair. Our path forward may be easier because he has the know-how of what it takes to get that extra team in, but that don't mean we're going to get that extra team. I just want everybody to be clear on that.
Great point. Yeah, kudos to Dr. Charles McClelland. Anytime you are the first person to represent a Black institution, if you would, and oftentimes I mean as a Black person, it means the first time that you had the opportunity, because we've had a lot of folks that had the skill set. But it's something that I think is important, as you pointed out, to recognize that this is a significant accomplishment. The fact that he was on the Division I committee, we saw that out there coming out of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, meaning that you can come to the SWAC at various different levels, coaches, players, students, right? Presidents, and go and change the world and really be anything that you want to be in terms of a HBCU, even more so. So it's important on that. But just to put a pin on it, when you understand that, because you talked about the fact earning his doctorate at Texas A&M University, I had the privilege, and I'll say it that way, to be in there when he was defending his dissertation. And that is something different in and of itself from that stuff. He did the MBA before I did, and so I got some pointers on that. But yeah, we've seen him travel the path and make a lot of difference in terms of what he's getting done. We see that in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I imagine next week during the media day that he'll probably even have more announcements in terms of moving the conference forward. But with that being said, people may not realize that you have to be nominated from this committee. And there are Division I commissioners from the Power Fives all over. So for your peers to recognize who you are and the strengths that you have and the ability to do that is one thing. So not only was he nominated, but obviously he was voted, because that's the process. You're nominated and then your peers vote on you to be the chair. And he wasn't the only one nominated. So in terms of what that looks like, that says a lot when you talk about what that looks like for him to get it done. And so that's the process. And so for those that may not understand what that looks like, I did want to share that as I did a little more research and found out about the process itself. So that's extremely important.
And I've got the
South Carolina State Hoops hired West Virginia's assistant head coach coming out of HBCU Sports. South Carolina State's basketball coach's West Virginia assistant Eric Martin reportedly accepted the offer to be the Bulldogs' next coach, according to Blue and Gold News. So that's pretty big news that South Carolina State obviously has some news out there in regards to a couple of players. We know the previous coach went to Alabama State. That was big news in terms of that announcement coming. And it sounds like they have somebody that's filling the spot and filling the shoes, and be fascinating. A lot of people are pretty high on this hire. So it'll be interesting to follow and see how this goes along. I know you want to jump in and maybe tie in something I didn't say about the SWAC and Division I basketball, Dr. Charles McClelland, or if you were going to get into alluding to this.
Oh, well, you had mentioned some of the people who were there, and I've got a list of some of the other schools and athletic directors of some of these schools to show you the elbows that Dr. McClelland is rubbing elbows with. Greg Byrne of the University of Alabama, Barry Collier, Butler, Mark Coy, Minnesota, Bubba Cunningham, North Carolina, Keith Gill, commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, Bernadette McClelland, commissioner of the Atlantic 10 Conference, and Marlon Newman at Samford University, James Pollard, director of athletics at Iowa State, and Tom Wiskrell, commissioner of the Big Sky Conference. Those are the people who are on that committee that helped nominate Dr. McClelland. So those are not any punk schools, as they say.
Great point. Shout out to George Suggs, Theron Waters, Edward Dwight Moore, just Chad Cooper's in the house. Colin Jefferson, J Mack is in the house. We got Arby Parker. Appreciate y'all. Thomas Maddox, Clinton Perry. Shout out to all the folks that have chimed in and get in here. Appreciate it. Keep it coming. Let's get this dialogue going. SWAC Media Day, Thursday, July 21st, 10 a.m. We'll get into some of the names because I want to see what your thoughts on the back end of the show. But a lot going on there. Arizona football agrees to money game with HBCU Prairie View. You know, I don't like those games, but it's out there. Some people are excited about it, so we'll see how that goes. Before we get into this break, any other news you want to share that's out there that has your attention?
2 former St. Augustine players land pro football deals. This is from HBCU Sports.com. Former St. Augustine players Akil Greer and Jalen Jones will look to showcase their skills in a new professional league this fall. They will play for the Major League Football's, that's MLF, Arkansas Attack, one of 4 teams scheduled to compete in the inaugural season. And this is a developmental league. This is not quite the level of what the USFL and what the XFL, the upcoming XFL will be. Greer is a 6'4" receiver from Mississippi. Jones is 6'4" quarterback from Maryland. Shout out to these 2 players getting the opportunity to continue their career, and maybe they can ultimately get to their long-term goal of making it to the NFL. Hopefully this is a stepping stone for them getting into that next level.
Good point. Yeah, keep playing. If you get an opportunity, you love it. No doubt about it.
Make money as long as your body lets you.
There you go. Obviously, Spelman College does no longer have sports in terms of intercollegiate athletic competition. But you have Hall of Famer Charles Barkley donates $1 million to Spelman College. Also, part of HBCU Sports brings us out there. HBCU Basketball Hall of Famer and current NBA analyst has pledged to donate $1 million to the all-women's college. This makes his 5th HBCU that he's given $1 million, or there actually is 6. He did Alabama A&M, Tuskegee, Miles College, all of those out of Alabama, Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University, and now Spelman. So he is doing his part in terms of donating money, and that's big kudos in terms of putting in that work, getting it done in terms of that. Let's take our break. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll get into our interview. I'm excited about this one. I know this young man, he's put in the work. He's going to enlighten you on some different perspective that you probably hadn't thought about before. So let's get in this break so we can get back to the other side and see what he has to say. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st.
World, what's happening? Rob Morgan here. Just letting you know, July 29th through the 31st, I'll be at Montgomery, Alabama, Urban NerdCon. Come on out, get something signed, take a photo, say hello, let's share some stories and create some memories, you know? Peace.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. TheUrbanNerdCon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place. A space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Yeah, we gonna tell you if you want to lose. We gonna tell you if you want to lose, if your team want to lose. Interview with none other than Dr. Victor Kidd, therapist, healer, owner and CEO of KWSC LLC, two-time HBCU graduate. I'll let him share who that is, keep your anticipation. PhD in sport management, University of South Carolina, one of the first to do that in that particular program. In the College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sports Management, one of the few universities that has its own college for hospitality, retail, and sport management. So it's a big deal there. Give you a little more about him before I let him show off and say what he wants, because I know he's not going to tell you everything. So I'm going to get in there and show out for him. As a consultant, Dr. Kidd currently assists the National Basketball Association, yeah, that's the NBA that you heard of, on various initiatives that support innovative approaches to supporting key stakeholders. In addition, Dr. Kidd works as a clinician, psychotherapist, and provides therapeutic services to athletes, first responders, Black male experiences trauma, general and performance anxiety, depression, co-occurring disorders. So we'll get in a little bit and say what that means and why that is important, because it's not necessarily the space we are in. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, man, I appreciate that introduction, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, man, you know, it's important to us, you know, as particularly as Black men, to really touch base and tap into that mental, that behavioral health side. But yeah, man, I played college football at Virginia State University in Central Virginia, right outside of Richmond, Virginia. I played there for all 4 years, and I started 3 out of the 4, so that was pretty cool. We got to a championship.
You was all right. You played a little bit. You got on the field.
Yeah. You know, linebacker, and that's when I was about 30 pounds lighter. You know, 19 inch size neck, and you know, having the time of my life. But yeah, I'm from Washington D.C., and after I finished that, I tried out for the league. I went to a couple small HBCU combines, a couple NFL regional combines and stuff. But I had a wonderful opportunity to go to Howard University to earn my master's in social work, where I received my training to be a clinician. And so that was always, you know, being from DC, we don't necessarily think about going to Howard. You know, it's a lot of transplants that go to Howard. So it was beautiful for me to be able to go to Howard. And I kind of have a lineage of a family that went to Howard. I have a few first cousins that went to Howard as well. So that was really beautiful in that regard, to be able to do that. And while I was there, I was working with Black males coming home from incarceration. So I really loved that work. You mentioned co-occurring disorder. So a co-occurring disorder is when you have a mental health diagnosis and you have a substance use disorder as well. So that's when when you can meet the criteria for both of those. That's what that is. So I was dealing with a lot of that. But at that time, I was a defensive coordinator in high school, coaching football, and I was training kids and stuff like that. And so had a mentor. He's like, you should, you know, think about getting your PhD, and the rest is history. And while I was at University of South Carolina, you became, you know, one of the many, you know, people that sat on my board of directors, you know, in regards to that journey, where I was the first Black student to enroll and graduate from that PhD program at South Carolina, where we really focus on athletic identity, athlete career transition, and sport retirement, particularly of Division I athletes and Black identifying athletes. So yeah, man, that's me in a nutshell. You know, some cool things about me. I'm newly married. We have 2 puppies, Kobe and Kimba, a Bernedoodle, Doodle. They keep us kind of busy. And I am the son of music royalty, a guy named Carl Max Kidd, who started go-go music. So if you ever been familiar with go-go music, it's a genre unique to the DC DMV region, but it has, you know, it has crossover factor. You can hear it in Europe, you can hear it in all different types of places. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And fast forward now, it's I was complaining about when I was a PhD student, but all that I'm doing now makes those days really, really seem like some light work, So it's been really a beautiful thing. And I started my own private practice, and I started my own consulting firm when I started working with the Brooklyn Nets, and it's just matriculated to the NBA, Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, member institutions of the NCAA. It's just been crazy. So, Kid Wellness Solutions and Consulting is blowing up, always looking to grow and for new opportunity, and always supporting individuals. As a clinician, I support primarily now athletes, first responders, and Black males who all deal with a whole host of things, trauma, all types of things, general life stress. Black males, whilst I see Black males all the way from 10 or Black identified males all the way from 10 to 72. So, it's something that I'm really passionate about. It's funny, if anybody listens to this and they're interested in becoming a clinician, when you very first start, you take everybody, right? This person, that person. And so you're going to get to the point in your career where you say, I know who I want to work with, and I know my reasoning for that. And it feels good to finally be hitting my stride in that in my career, where I know, who I want to work with and able to pick my spot. So that's me in a nutshell. I hope I gave enough.
No, that's everything. You can leave me anything. I was gonna pick on you. I'm glad you went full circle. Job well done. I just remember when you started off and you reached out to me. I'm just fascinated and so proud in terms of what I've seen you accomplish in an extremely short period of time. After you sharing all that history, and it's just fascinating to see that. I wanted to get in. I know you had an article in the journal Intercollegiate, GIA is what we call it short. Profit athletes, athletics roles set in post-athletic transition. I know this focused more FBS programs, NCA, but in general, more specific. You don't have to break down that study. Folks can go check it out if they want to. But I wanted to know, what does that look like in general in that space, and then specifically, what does that look like just in terms of that space? The second half, we'll go back and look a little more at HBCU. Talk about this space.
Yeah, I think overall, when you look at specialized occupational tracks or specialized occupational communities, it's always an interesting and very unique experience. And when we think about particularly just our Division I or college athletes, right, that is a very specialized occupation that doesn't mirror anything else across the general population, even a work study, right, for a general student population, right? So when you think about coming from being in that system, it's a bubble, right? It could be very socially isolating. It could kind of impede or impact the individual from going and exploring other parts of who they are. Something that the literature calls identity foreclosure. And it's really difficult, because when you're in that space and you have you're athletically role engulfed, or you have a role set that you have to utilize in order to survive, right, to maintain your scholarship, to maintain where you're at on the depth chart and things of that nature, or even maintain the notoriety back in your small hometown. There's a lot of pressure on individuals as they navigate that environment. That article was an end of career transition exploration, but the literature misses out, particularly in mainstream American sport, on within career transitions that has gotten some research over in across the globe, in Europe and things like that, and amongst elite athletes like gymnasts and things like that. But it's across a 4 year or to 4 to 6 year college athletic career. An individual has many transitions within their career that can impact who they are. And we see, from a practical standpoint, as a practitioner, I have about 12 athletes that I work with. And you see the kind of the remnants of the challenges that they experience during those transitions. Some of them can be very traumatic. You get recruited by a coach, that coach leaves. You get recruited by a coach, you and that coach start having a little beef, and, starting to impact your playing time. You lose your scholarship. All types of things can happen. And that's just within the realm of sport. We're not even talking about outside of that, and loved ones passing, COVID-19, things like that. So something that I wasn't able to really start to coin, but I talk about a lot, is traumatic transitions throughout sport. And a lot of people don't really want to talk about trauma or have trauma associated with anything regarding sport. But, a lot of not just the playing experiences, but the lived experience of college athletes can be very traumatic, particularly within career and then when they leave, because when you leave, you're kind of trying to find your tribe. You're trying to find what you're going to do next. I was blessed, man. I'm a firm believer in Christ, but I was really blessed that I met a lady at a Starbucks. She happened to be the PhD coordinator in the social work department at Howard University. And she said, you didn't tell me what you was going to do after you finished. I was in my last semester at Virginia State. I was home for Christmas. And she said, you didn't tell me what you were going to do, when you finished, but here's my card. And so she was a big reason why. Shout out to Dr. Teresa Ben Goodley. She is the reason why I was even considering getting a master's. And so having some of those guardian angels on my path kind of helped with my transition. And my family didn't put a lot of stock in my athletic competition. It was, I was a late bloomer. I started playing football. I was 13. I grew up playing basketball and baseball, but my mom, she wasn't one of those, helicopter moms. She's like, all right, go to practice. I'll see you later on, So, and that helped a lot. But a lot of my teammates and a lot of individuals that I've interacted with, this has been kind of like not a means to an end, but really the end for them. And how do we kind of, get people to kind of go through this grief process, because the termination of your sport leads to, a grief process. And individuals don't know how to really, we're scared to frame it that way. We want to romanticize athletic participation. And though there, I definitely don't regret ever playing sport, right? If I could go and rip somebody's head off right now, I would probably try. If I could get 4 downs, I would probably try to do it, right? But, we do also have to understand that this is not a microcosm of our society, and we have a lot of individuals that interact in different realms in regards to sport that need support as they transition within and at the end of their career. So a lot of individuals have all types of things, life disorientation. Some former athletes even, deal with suicide ideation, but also show markers for something called antisocial personality disorder, right? When they are in a particular environment, they leave that environment, do not know how to engage or do not know the social norms and things like that. Kind of like a weird manifestation of social autism or something like that in regards to how to transition out, because they haven't been able to develop, a vast majority of them haven't been able to develop the skills needed to talk on, interview or Zoom or something like that. In an etiquette class or getting a suit made or getting your headshot made, it's not going to help with that. So
great point. Let me take a quick break. Then on the other side, we're going to bring you back and let AD Drew follow up with a question, take a deeper dive. Great information out there, really taking us through what does that look like? Because, on our side, a lot of us, we cheer. Drew is coached from that perspective, but we don't necessarily take this deeper dive. And while we want to celebrate the sports, as you said, you get an opportunity, you're going to play, you're going to take those chances. Right. But if we don't take the deeper dive and really understand what this looks like, we can't be there to really help and benefit those that we say we love and appreciate on the other side. So I want to get in a little more of that and what does that look like specifically for HBCUs, even more so, because it's such a different cultural perspective. With that being said, let's take our second break. We'll be right back after this break. We'll bring Dr. Kidd back a little more as he's really bringing it and giving you a full framework of what this looks like in spaces that we haven't really heard or seen about. Appreciate you so much. We'll be right back after this quick break.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique
helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Timok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach you.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're interviewing none other than Dr. Victor Kidd. So let me go ahead and get it to you, AD Drew. Let you jump in here and ask the follow-up question.
Yeah, Victor, talking about this during the break, and you was talking about how dealing with the end of your athletic career, whatever that is, and some of the trauma that goes with this. But I want to kind of ask you something along a different side of that. What about the normalizing that athletics plays in people's lives, be it high school, be it college, be it on the professional, when something traumatic happens outside your life, knowing that you have the basketball court or the football field or whatever your sport is to come back to get at that sense of normalcy back. What does that play into some of the research that you've been doing?
I'm 33. I'm born in 1989. So for my age group and people before that, sport was really like your original coping mechanism, right? The teacher told you, you were bad, or the teacher told you this, or you had problems, behavioral problems, or, issues at home. Sport was kind of like you get away, your community, your tribe, coach. All my coaches, because my mother worked late, would pick me up, things like that. I'm named
pick you up, feed you, drop you off.
Yeah. And they tell me I'm named after my mom. They tell Vicky, hey, I got Victor, whatever the case may be. So it was really like your original, coping mechanism. And I think it serves that for a minute until we get the professionalism of sport. And the professionalism of sport then wasn't necessarily, when I was growing up, at Facebook, I was like graduating high school. You needed like a college email to even get a Facebook. That's how new it was. Twitter wasn't even around. Instagram would come like a
MySpace.
Right. You had MySpace, Black Planet, and that's if you really knew how to like make your page.
College Club.
Right. So it originally, generally speaking, wasn't really a safe space. The issue now is that youth sport is so professionalized that is it really causes, it's not a safe haven anymore, right? I work with a pretty prominent youth basketball player. He's getting recruited pretty heavy back in DC. And he was experiencing a lot of anxiety because you want to know why? He would go to some workout or go and perform in front of a group of people. And then he could go right to Twitter and somebody tweets, so-and-so, rising junior at so-and-so high school, boom, 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 did perform well, dropped in rankings, right? So like, being able to get away and use sport as kind of a safe haven is no longer, due to kind of the globalization and how it's so polarized now. And so that's what I'm seeing now is causing a lot of impact, is because we're socializing youth and young adolescent, young emerging adults to even more than what we already have done to connect themselves to their athletic participation or to their athletic, excelling in their athletic ranks. And it's dangerous. A lot of my colleagues in sport and entertainment management would talk about the difference between play versus sport, right? And that now competitive sport has just assumed play, right? Kids are not just going out and having, playing in a very non-constructive way, right? And that was throwback tackle was where I learned. I didn't play organized football growing up, but throwback tackle, I played that every day on a hot summer day where, I learned how to juke. I learned how to do this. I learned how to break down and make a tackle. Wasn't intentionally planning to do that, but it kind of causes a divide with all of that. And so I think what happens is, because it is such a very strong gateway or outlet for individuals who may be dealing with other things in their real lives, when it's taken away, particularly when it's involuntarily, it causes a lot of dysfunction, right? And we start to see all types of things, particularly with Black male athletes, from substance use to womanizing to unhealthy sexual behaviors to lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, imposter syndrome. This even plagues the football player who didn't make it to the league and now is doing well in politics, or now is doing well in the private sector, and that's a millionaire. They're still dealing with like imposter syndrome around, like, can I actually do this, right? And so sport being, for a lot of individuals, a space where they are validated, that being stripped away has caused a lot of challenges. But now, like I said, even with the bombarding of this hyper socialization with sport, is it as a safe haven as it used to be? I can't agree that it is. And that's really difficult, with certain sports, but, just difficult all around. It's something that I'm gonna really be on the lookout for the day I'm blessed with some little ones.
Can I get a follow up on that?
Sure.
Quickly. What about the pressure to specialize in a sport at such a young age now? What about that one? Because back in our day, you played everything, and then when you got to be a junior or a senior, you figured out, okay, they looking at me at this one, I'm gonna go ahead and specialize at this one. But up until about 16, 17 years old, you played 3, 4 sports and whatever else for fun.
That's a parental issue. So, parents, if you're listening to this, this is directed to you. I've worked with some athletes and then worked with their parents. I've worked with some adolescents, and I've also, because I work with the adolescent, I work with the parent. And the parent puts a lot of pressure on the adolescent, and they don't necessarily need the pressure. So the pressure of their own ego, right? Being able to say, well, my child is this, my child has elevated his game in this, has impacted their ability to allow their children to have an autonomous approach to the athletic participation. Right. And so what happens is, it's not the kid. The kid is not going to say, my nephew plays soccer. He runs track, hasn't picked up a football yet because my brother won't let him, but he's interested in another sport. And it's more so, hey, just go and see what you do. So he runs track, and that's what he jumps. So he went to go run track, but they put him in a long jump, and he's actually better in long jump than he is in the 200, right? But it was kind of like, man, let me just try it. Let me just see. Let me just, my teammates said they're long jumping. Let me just try it. It wasn't like my brother came to him and said, yo, you need to long jump, right? And so the real issue is the parent or guardian or community shepherd who is ego driven and may be facilitating this individualized focus on one sport. It is not healthy. The research shows it, right? Even from a social development standpoint. My cousin, Dr. Mima King, she just finished her PhD at Purdue, and she focuses on she's a social psychologist, child psychologist. And her dissertation focuses on the social development of kids and how they need autonomy, how they need space to explore themselves. And participating in different sports allow you, from a social standpoint, to do that. From a physical standpoint, it teaches you different mechanics, right? It teaches you, I played catcher from when I was 4 years old all the way up till I was finishing high school. different mechanics. I didn't have tight groin. I didn't have tight hips. I sat down all the time. I was able to rotate my hips, know how to utilize my core. These mechanics, when I was at the plate, helped me as a football player, right? Helped me take on the power, helped me share the guard, helped me share the guard and the linebacker, allowed me to contain all those different things. And when we think about playing basketball, it kept me very, agile for a heavier kid, right? So it's the social and physical implications of just having your kid play. Your kid plays one sport with the same group of kids on the AAU basketball team. That's all he knows. That's only 12, 15 kids he knows.
Right. I want to ask a question in terms of, obviously you work professional, but going back to the college level, when we look at the unique space we're in terms of Black institutions, white institutions, specifically HBCUs, we're talking about HBCU sports, in what I term, HBCU sports culture. Talk about the dichotomy and the difference, or, in terms of the coping skills and what may be similar or different, and why it's important to note that there is at least a cultural difference between these two sports.
Yeah,
in this space.
HBCUs, the sports aren't really, to me, that much different, right? Predominantly white institutions have more resources to make it look like a Benz. And, HBCUs, it may look like, all types of ways, a little hoopty, a little Saturn SL, right? And that's more so predicated on the resources, right? I remember when all HBCUs had Russell Athletics. I hated Russell Athletics, right? But that was predicated on the resources. But the way that it was dressed up doesn't change that. Most individuals who played Division II at predominantly white institutions, hell, Virginia State University was smoking other predominantly white institutions, Division II institutions over the last 5 years, right? So it's not about the sport. But the culture really, for playing at a historically Black college and university, or attending a historically Black college and university, is people don't understand you have 4 years. Most young adolescent, young emerging adults I talk to today who don't want to go to college, I ask them, I say, okay, if you don't go to college, what are you going to do? And they said, well, I don't know. I said, well, once you go somewhere for 4 years where you can have a safe space to actually tease out what it is that you want to do. College isn't necessarily about the degree at this point. It's about allowing yourself a safe environment to develop and really figure out who you are. And the historically Black college and university allows that. I was able to develop as a young Black man into something that I did not know I was before I left Virginia State. When I got to Virginia State, I thought I was just a football player. When I left Virginia State, all right, I was invigorated. I was starting to engage in different social things on campus. I was starting to, kind of really think about what I wanted to do with my psychology degree afterwards, right? And it was my professors that looked like me, who shared these experiences with me, who modeled these certain things that allowed me to be who, to come and develop, come of age, and who I was in a safe environment, right? That was very affirming, right? You always hear about the administrative nightmares at our institutions. Put that aside, it taught me that you're going to have administrative issues when you go out into the workplace, right? And I was able to learn that from people that looked like myself. And I was double spoiled because I grew up in DC where everyone looked like me, It was truly Chocolate City. And so for me, I was double spoiled, right? And so going to playing at a historically Black college and university brings forth different type of attributes that playing at another institution doesn't, right? And when we look at the resources, we look at the economic standpoint of it, I think, maybe that is a positive around the different economic situations, that it still feels close-knit. My head coach, I hated when I played for him. I love him now. And I remember telling him, one time he says, I didn't get paid to be nice to you, but he really instilled a lot in us, and instilled a lot of stuff that, he could only do it in a way that he could do it as a Black man and as a Black coach for young Black males.
Perfect. Well, we'll do that. We're going to get out of here and get you a chance. I know you got other appointments and things you got to get to, but you really brought a different perspective that I'm so excited that we can do this. And we'd like to get on your clock so we can come back. I know we joked about bringing you back monthly or whatever, but periodically, I think, we need to make sure that we bring you back to level how we resonate with these young folks and what we're doing. Because we're going to get into this football season, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement around it. You know, we just had the SIAC Media Day yesterday. Next week is the SWAC Media Day. Then we have the CIAA, and after that, the MEAC.
Yeah.
So we'll bring that all in, and obviously you have Tennessee State over there at OVC, North Carolina A&T playing there last year. They transition out into the Colonial, as always freaks me out with that. But anyway, they're in the Big South for football this year, and then you have Hampton in the Colonial. So we'll get into that, and maybe we'll get a chance to massage and bring some other stuff to you.
Real quick, are they going to be able to maintain their, you know, kind of how TSU used to do it when they were playing the OVC? Are they going to be able to maintain some of the rivals on the schedule with that move?
I believe in some ways they will. I know they have a 10-year contract with North Carolina Central, so that's important to at least have that rivalry game. Obviously, they have the Mayo Classic this year that kicks off things, that Labor Day weekend. They're playing in Charlotte in terms of big classic. It rotates off for a couple of years, and they play back home and home, I think it is, and then they'll come back and play it there too. The problem they'll have coming forward is, in terms of the FC model, is they have eight, or at least previously, the Colonial would play an 8-game schedule. You know, at the FCS level, you play essentially 11 games. So that means you only have 3 non-conference games. Right. Now, obviously, you got the one with North Carolina Central. That leaves you 2 games. Teams tend to be playing at least one FBS. We can discuss. I don't agree with that, but they play that. So that means you
only got
might
one game,
not but have one other HBCU game. So at the most, they're going to have 4, because you got Hampton. They'll play within the conference. But you could have as little as just 2. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like and how that rolls out. Because I think a lot of people believe they're going to be able to continue to play these as non-conference games, but the math just is not fit. Yeah. Not whether they want to or not, but the math is going to be something that's going to be intriguing to follow. And we see a little bit of that with the OVC. OVC had a break previously where they were allowed to play one of their non-conference games and count it in the conference. And the conferences weren't as big. They were playing 7 conference games, move up to 8. But as these things start to matriculate, it starts to get harder. The other issue that people realize in terms of the SWAC, as it grows out to 12, play 8. They were playing 7, now they're playing 8. They go to 9. They don't necessarily have the room to rotate you on the schedule. MEAC a little safer with just 16. So good point and great question. We'll have to really follow that moving forward. We'll get into this last break. You see the brilliant mind and how he's able to tackle so many different things. Seriously, you know, I know your kid, we talk off the record, and I asked another question that he just blew my mind with. Now, I'm not even sure if we're ready to tackle that yet, but at some point we'll get on that too. But yeah, this man keeps me in a space where it's times where you think things I bring on the show. A lot of that is because I'm talking to gentlemen like this about how I can provide a different perspective and not just saying what everybody else is saying. And that's not to denigrate anybody else. Everybody's doing what's necessary in the space, but I want to make sure that we provide a different perspective of how we can have these dialogues about HBCU sports that are unique in a way that resonates, hopefully, with the fans that want to see it. Even if it's to a smaller degree, a different number of folks. There's purpose in that, and we don't always have to have everything for everybody in a different way. Everybody has a space, do it and do it right. With that, I know you said you had to go. Love you, love everything you're doing, brother, and I'm not ashamed to say it. You keep up, stay strong, and we're going to talk and keep moving forward in different ways. Thanks for your time. We'll be right back after this break. None other than Dr. Victor Kidd. Check out what he got going on, man. Putting in that work.
Peace.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure, it's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021. Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking. Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of you.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as we have always clinical Professor AD Drew, clinical visiting professor, as he does at time, holding it down. So I hope y'all enjoyed the interview. Again, you know, we want to give you a different perspective, what it looks like to really understand sports, not just from you cheering on everybody, but making sure that you're appreciative of the individual, men and women participating as well. But I wanted to go back to SIAC. The media day was yesterday. I love the fact that they're doing it in Atlanta at the College Hall of Fame. Really gives the students a really different environment in there. But I wanted to get your perspective, Drew. What do you think about the SIAC? Everything went down. Obviously, had the predicted order of finish. We have coaches excited about it, not excited about it. You, Jamie Walker, Ryan were there bringing us the inside about those things. But take us into that for a little bit. Give me your updates and final thoughts there.
Well, unfortunately, Doc, I had a little bit of technical difficulties getting up there yesterday. I did not make it. I had to do like everybody else. I had to tune into my BCSN / my JBN app to watch media day. But from talking to Brian and Jamie, who were there, very good session. Obviously, you know, with any media day, there's always things that, you know, could have flowed a little bit better, but we understand how that goes with everything. But kind of interested in the order finish. You know, everybody kind of went chalk on the east side with Albany State being chosen on the east side to win, and I forgot who was chosen in the west again. Trying to pull it back up again. And on the west side, Miles. That was an interesting pick. Miles being chosen on the west side to win it. I've said this: 4 of the 5 teams on the west side have. Yeah, I remember you said that. With Lane being the only one with that incumbent coach. One thing I want everybody to look at, and I really had to think about this, and I finally figured out why. If you look at it, you got 8 teams on the east and 5 teams in the west, with Edward Waters and Allen being added to the east side. And, you know, we've been discussing who was moving to the west. Well, Doc, I finally figured it out. They could kick the can down the road for a year. You know why? Why? Because Allen and Edward Waters are not eligible for the postseason. Right. So, essentially, you still have the same 6-5 format when it comes to the postseason for choosing who's going to be in the SIAC championship game. Now, Edward Waters and Allen are eligible for all other sports, and they're going to have to solve that can come to winter sports, men's and women's basketball. But for football, they can kick the can down the road until 23 and figure out how they're going to do it, because you will not see an 8-5 split in 2023 in the SIAC.
And it's fascinating because you go to the women's sports, you'd have an even number of institutions in terms of the number, because you move out Morehouse not having women's basketball, not having women's sports at all. Obviously, it's an all-male institution.
Yeah, but on the men's side, you're gonna have you're still
gonna have the odds.
It's gonna be 7-6 on the men's side. It'll be 6-6 on the women's side.
Right. So it's gonna be fascinating to see what that looks like. As we get into it, people getting lathered up, exciting. We'll have one final show before we get down there to Birmingham. I have to bring you to SWAC Championship. Any thoughts in terms of the early things that you're looking forward to in terms of the SWAC Media Day?
Well, I did have one interesting one. This may be one of the few times where I've ever seen an incoming freshman being chosen to represent his institution, i.e. Travis Hunter at Jackson State University. You know, usually media day is reserved for your more seasoned players, your juniors, your seniors, conference players of the year, award winners, things like that. And essentially you have somebody represent your institution, and how we say it, he don't even have 8 hours on the yard, but he's gonna represent the institution. So that, I thought that was an interesting pick. Obviously, we understand the hype behind Travis Hunter. No disrespect to Travis Hunter, but I just really thought that was interesting that somebody who doesn't have any hours on the yard was being chosen to represent that institution. And don't forget, CIAA. Don't lose sight of CIAA. They are the day before the SWAC. So let's not get too involved in the SWAC and miss what's going to happen in the CIAA, which is going to be Wednesday.
That's right. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on Tuesday. I'm glad you brought that up because I had it flipped, I believe, when I said it. One thing else, though, I do want to say before we focus a little more on the CIAA, and we'll bring this out when we get down there, is 4 of those quarterbacks at this point, and take a little deeper dive, coming out of Texas. You got the transfer quarterback, Demetrius Davis, big time program out of Greater Houston area, North Shore. But you got Prairie View, Travion Conley, who's out of Dallas, Duncanville, quarterback out of that way, that have clashed in terms of state 6A championship. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Anybody plays that out. I don't know if anybody's thought about that. Obviously, you got Andrew Body, Texas Southern University, and Shador Sanders, high school products of Texas. Shador Sanders won the Big Ben HBCU award, and Andrew Body was a finalist for the Big Ben HBCU football award that connects a player to the state of Texas. So that's fascinating when you talk about all that talent in Texas. And you've heard about these quarterback arms, but now you're starting to see it spread through the SWAC. That's be something I'm going to focus on to kind of see what does that look like, and is that more of a trend or just happened to take place here. I'm not sure many people have thought about that. So I kind of wanted to tease that out a little bit. But that'll do it for us in terms of the show today. I want to say thank you to everybody checking us out, bringing that love as you always do in terms of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Cavil and Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Hope you enjoyed our interview with Dr. Victor Kidd, bringing us some information in terms of his perspective of understanding the psychology of the sporting perspective in many different areas. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab, including CIAA Media Day, as well as the SWAC Media Day. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. DrKenyattaCavil. DrKenyattaCavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Drew?
Of course.
Roy?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
We'll holler.